Hi everybody. I have had a hectic day today and I don't have time to get a lot done here in the fish room tonight, but we are going to have a little chat about my 40-gallon native tank while we watch it get fed. You can possibly see that little darter underneath that piece of wood in the very front of the tank. That's one of the fish I want to make sure gets some of these tubifex worms that I'm going to put in here. But more importantly, I did this the other day and I had a really neat reaction. I stuck one of these wads of tubifex worms on the glass, and the crayfish smelled it and began looking around the tank trying to find it. And when they actually did find it, the result was kind of neat. And I don't think it's going to stick to this glass here today. This is the second one of these I've tried, and we will see what happens if the crayfish start moving around to find the source of the food. Now I've already put one in which did not stick to the glass, so I'm going to spread that around now. That's what all the swirling worms you're going to see in the tank are, and that will hopefully keep the little minnows busy and give the crayfish time to come out and find that wad stuck to the glass. So if you will notice, it's right behind the glass, but it is right here. You will see that little darter, and if you will look right here, you can see the other little darter. So that was one of the points I was going to make. I was saying in a video recently that I caught two of those darters and put them in the tank, and I had not yet seen both of them together, but I have now seen both of them together, and we have right here on this video. So that's proof positive that both of them are still alive, and they seem to be doing pretty well. I fed them some bloodworms the other day, and I absolutely positively saw them eating the bloodworms. They were stalking them, gulping them up, grabbing them whenever they would, find one that was on a log, or for their size, those little twigs could be considered logs. They would stalk it, sneak up on it, and then sort of jump on it and gobble it up. So I definitely saw them actively feeding on the bloodworms. I've also seen them now eating some of the mysis shrimp I've put in there. So we know that they eat those, and that gives me a lot of hope that they're going to stay healthy. All in all, the tank's starting to look really good. It's starting to get sort of sculpted and shaped out by the crayfish. They're starting to dig their burrows here and there, and that's making it look a lot more natural. I still want to go down the stream on the next nice day we get. I might even go down tomorrow. It's not going to be that bad, but it's not going to be a nice sunny day either. We'll have to wait and see how I feel. But I want to get some more of those darters. I've been reading up on them, and while they are not a gregarious fish, like they don't necessarily like schooling around in large groups, they're not necessarily an aggressive fish either, and if there are a lot of them around, they will school together, or at least pal around together in small groups. So if I get 6 or 8 of those little things in here, they max out at about 2 inches, so I could have a really cool active population feeding on the bottom of this tank. We've also got that little sculpin in here. I can see it off to the side. It's probably not going to make its way around to get in this video or not. It's off to the other side of the tank, and it's facing the back corner, so if it goes anywhere, it's probably going to go away from us rather than towards us, but we'll see. Anyway, getting back to the darters, I don't know if I've mentioned it or not yet, but one of the points I wanted to make is I've been doing some research, looking into them, trying to figure out exactly what they are. And while I was referring to them as log perch, because they do look a lot like a common log perch, I actually believe they are tessellated darters. Both of them look similar, but both of them also have different markings on the side of them, so I'm not sure if I've got 2 different species or not. But based on what would be around here, species-wise, I guess the crayfish aren't going to find that other piece of worm either. Species-wise, what would be around here, my only real choices would be the tessellated darter or a common log perch. There is another darter called a Johnny darter, which is so similar to the tessellated darter that a lot of people assume that it's the same species, but they are simply separated by geography. There's 2 sort of separate individual populations of them, and the ones that are usually called Johnny darters are located a little bit west of me, out towards the Ohio Valley, and maybe into western Maryland. Where I'm located, the darter that would fit that niche would be the tessellated darter, which again pretty much looks identical to the Johnny darter, but geographically it is separated. We are more of the eastern population, so I would be, you know, where they're calling them the tessellated darters. Let's throw a few shrimp pellets in there and see if we can't get a couple of those crayfish to come up front and center. I can see them in there crawling around. I'm not sure how well it comes out on camera. It's always hard to tell how the image looks when you're seeing it on the little viewfinder in the camera. So those are just some regular old sinking shrimp pellets. The flavor of that gets into the tank and the crayfish smell it and start hunting around looking for it. Now typically crayfish, for as much as you might think that they're a sort of meat-eating type animal with those big claws and aggressive looks and everything, crayfish by far prefer vegetation over meaty type food. Now whether this is because it's easier to get, I don't know. I certainly think that if you threw some dead fish in a pond or something, the crayfish would easily come out. Oh, that sculpin may actually make it into this video after all. He just made his way up to the top. And then came back down. Now that's another one that does not swim particularly gracefully. It just sort of lumbers around on the bottom. And that is actually one that I've got more concern about getting fed. I haven't yet seen this one really actively eat anything. I did see it eat a bloodworm, so I know it will eat the bloodworms. But it didn't really, seem to be that interested in them. It had multiple opportunities to gobble up other bloodworms that were right there at the bottom, but it didn't. Now, if it's what I think it is a mottled sculpin. And if it is a mottled sculpin, then it's a predatory fish, and it will eat small fry. But they also say it will eat, insect larvae. It will eat snails. There's one of those little darters right there at the bottom. And so if it eats snails and it eats little microcrustaceans and stuff like that, then it should be good to go in this tank, because I've certainly got plenty of snails in this tank, and I put snails in this tank for a food source. And then with the mysis shrimp and the bloodworms, I just can't imagine that there's not enough variety of food getting in this tank to satisfy that fish. But it's already looking kind of skinny to me, although it is admittedly a little hard to tell. It's not like I've ever gotten a really good solid look at it when I first brought it home. Let's see if we can get a close-up look at that again now that it seems to have gone stationary. You got to really, really get your eye in when you're looking for that fish. And that little tiny one down there is one of those tessellated darters. Again, if you don't think this is a tessellated darter, if you think it's some other species, by all means let me know. I don't know what this is. I'm guessing that they are tessellated darters. And as I've said before, it really is just academic. And by that I mean that there's real no practical purpose in me learning what the name of the fish is. It's not going to change anything. It would just be a matter of curiosity. I'd like to know what the fish is actually called. But again, it's not going to change anything. It's not like I'm breeding them or I'm writing a paper on them or anything where I really need to know the scientific name of this fish. But if you do have an idea what you think it is, or if you've looked up the tessellated darter and you think it's not the tessellated darter, then by all means let me know, and I will keep looking around. It'll be interesting to find out what's going on. And I hope some of those little highlights of blue and iridescent are coming out on those little mosquito fish in there, those little gambusia. They're pretty plain and drab. I always refer to them as sort of the wild guppies, I guess you could call them. They basically are wild guppies. Very closely related to them anyway. And as plain and bland as they are, they really do have some nice little hints and glints and highlights of iridescent and blue and sort of pearly sheen to them. They're prettier than you'd think at first glance once you stand here and spend some time looking at them. So there we go. I'm going to call that good. That's 10 minutes of enjoying this tank. I've really got to get on with my evening. As I said, I've had a hectic few days here, and I've not really had a lot of time to get much done in the fish room. So tomorrow is pretty much going to be a stay at home, get some stuff done day, and maybe I'll get a chance to sit down and shoot a few videos where we can discuss some topics or get some work done around the fish room at least, and we can discuss some activities rather than simply watching a feeding video. So thanks again. Hope you enjoyed that. By all means, let me know what you think those fish are called. Don't forget, this one is my 40-gallon native tank. And I will see you real soon in the next one.